Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of the Collecting Keys Mike and Dan show, where I, Mike DeHaan, and my co-host Daniel Austin.
Daniel?
I called you Daniel.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was weird.
You're not my mom, dude. My mom's the only one that calls me by that name.
And my co-host / business partner, Dan Austin, talk about real estate investing, business, and everything else in between. That was funny. I don't know why that came out. I think it's because I just wrapped up at a GoBundance event this past week, and regularly it comes up that you're also in GoBundance, and I say like, oh, his name's Dan Austin, and a lot of people, they know you from Facebook or social media or things like that, where you have your full name.
Oh, really?
So they'll be like, oh, are you Daniel Austin's?
That's fine. I'd never thought about that. I'll have to look at that on social. Daniel. Yeah, I haven't earned the additional 3 letters in my name yet. I gotta get back to that. Like there's some people, like, they just use their full name, and you're like, damn, yeah, that sounds prominent. I'm not there yet. I got to work on those extra 3 letters.
Yeah. But, so I just got used to it, apparently.
Yeah, Daniel, that's my boy.
Yeah, after 12 hours of networking a day for the last week.
That's exhausting, but fun at the same time.
It just started to stick together. But yeah, so yeah, it was a good event, though. So I spent the last week in Tahoe at the GoBundance Winter Mastermind. And if you guys aren't familiar with GoBundance, it's basically it's always kind of a hard thing to describe, but it's a millionaire mastermind group with people of all different kind of walks of life and businesses and things like that. But the common ground across everybody is high net worth, higher net worth. And then, they all want things that are, I would say, bigger than just business. Yeah. So there's always a lot of talk around family life and balance and that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah. The minimum requirements are $2 million net worth. And then there's certainly people with 2 million and certainly people with 100 million. So there's quite a few different people, variations, but we talk about it a lot. But I was thinking about this, why would we talk about it? I think it's because of the fact that is a mastermind group that really does, you hit it on the nail on the head there. It's not just about net worth. That is just a requirement. There's other, pseudo requirements, people do get kicked out for certain behaviors, but it's really about well-rounded lifestyle and not just focusing on money, which is an important part of our life because it can feed different areas of our life, but it's not the only piece. And it's probably more about just knowing people and getting to know other people at a deeper level than you normally would at any other event or a group that I'm part of.
Yeah, and especially for us, we kind of live in an area where it's tough to find other guys that are, they have similar goals and similar aspirations, and it's a great way to be able to connect with people nationwide, that want to not only grow their businesses, kind of massively and but also make impacts in their communities and
have adventures,
to incorporate,
be healthy,
maintain your health, be able to incorporate different levels of success with your family and all sorts of stuff. But
I think that's one last thing before we go that I would touch on. I think the key to success with any group, regardless if it's GoBundance or anything, is that the thing that works for us with GoBundance is that there is a baseline of a baseline for a starting point, I guess is what I'd say. Instead of it, there's a starting point where everybody agrees that these are things that are important and these are things that I don't compromise on. And that's where you can go. You could go and meet up with a bunch of high net worth individuals and walk away and be like, I don't like any of those people, or I gained 0. And it's because they're totally different people. GoBundance has a standard starting point for what's important in life, and people that subscribe to that are the people that join. And so you tend to already have a pretty good basis relationship with the people you're with.
Yeah, I think that's super true. And, that expectation is established extremely early on when you join in of kind of, what that looks like and the openness that a lot of people have. And, this is my second year going to the Winter Mastermind, which I think is kind of the biggest one every year. And there was a lot of guys. And one of the things that really stood out to me this year, which I thought was really interesting, was in past years, there's been a lot of like syndicators and, multifamily people and people that are kind of there. Honestly, it's just like kind of raise money from other members.
millionaires.
Yeah. And there was still a little bit of people that sort of fit that mold, but it was a much more diverse group in terms of, the kind of business people run. I think a lot of the faux syndicators that were like able to qualify in 2020 and 2021 just because of the way the market was have gotten wrecked,
right?
And or moved on to other things because the opportunities.
Well, and they don't see the value in being around high net worth individuals anymore because they don't have a business, they don't have a deal to syndicate.
Yeah, or they realized that a lot of the people weren't just going to be writing them checks left and right. So there was a lot more business focused talk, which I really enjoyed. A lot more people with backgrounds in different kinds of like brick and mortar businesses, right? Like or trades, or a lot of people with medical backgrounds or in tech backgrounds, which was really interesting. I feel like in the past it hasn't been like that, but
this event, tell me if I'm wrong. This is the first event since Matt King was the new CEO, and they've kind of agreed to reset a little bit. And so this was kind of that resetting event, maybe going back to old school GoBundance or previous years GoBundance. Did it feel that way?
Yeah, it did. So as in the first year and a half that we were in, there was a CEO that was there that was doing bringing in a lot of like outside people for presentations and was making it less, I guess, community driven. And what it was previously, which was before we were a part of it, it was mostly people that were within the community that were doing a lot of the talks and presentations, things like that. And the previous CEO had shifted away from that, but now they brought it back. So, we still had a couple outside speakers, like the keynote speakers, Tom Bilyeu, who, if you guys aren't familiar, he founded and sold Quest Nutrition. Quest bars,
so delicious.
Different Quest powders and all that sort of stuff. But he sold it for like $1 billion.
It's legit.
A few years ago. And so he was like kind of the keynote speaker, but outside of that, all of the other stuff was speakers that were internal to the organization, which was good because I think in the past, just with how they were growing, they failed to recognize how many heavy hitters are in there and like the insanely big things that people are doing. And this was the complete opposite of that.
Oh, cool.
And just like the caliber of people in there in general, not only in terms of their businesses, but also how high profile a lot of them are. So like with this event, they had assigned tables every day when you went into the conference room, and that way it was like sort of forced everyone to mingle outside of their normal
to meet
cliques
other people that aren't just the same person every day that you sit down with breakfast at the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Or people from their own, community, stuff like that. But literally at one point, I was on the second to last day, I was sitting at a table, and I had David Green at my table, and I had Matt Faircloth at my table.
Cool, bigger pockets, heavy hitters.
But yeah, it's both bigger pockets guys. And it was kind of like a surreal moment for me because David Green from Bigger Pockets, his book, he wrote like the Burr book, which is, if you're been in real estate at all, you've heard about the Burr method, where you buy, you rehab, you rent the property out, you refinance your money, and you repeat the process. He kind of like wrote the book for that. And that's what got me into real estate. And then I was sitting at a table with him and he was talking about the issues with his business that he's trying to overcome. Right. And I was, it was kind of a surreal moment for me to have it come full circle that now we're peers. No, it was a really good event though. And tons of takeaway. I always come back from things like that with just like tons of great notes and tons of good motivation around, business and just, direction, I guess, about what we need to do to improve. And I mean, I hate to say it too, Dan, but you need to go to one of these events. I haven't been to one yet. Every time I go to one, I realize, man, we're so fucking disorganized compared to some of these people.
I know. Well, I agree, and I think about that a lot. I'm definitely planning to go to these events once I stop having babies and not sleeping at night, which will be hopefully this summer event will be one of my first events.
Yeah,
which I'm excited about. And some regional events you and I are going to kick off. So if there's any listeners that are local to, I don't know what you say, Eastern Washington, Idaho, Montana, Eastern Oregon, kind of that inland Pacific Northwest, we're going to have our own little regional GoBundance group, so you should definitely join so you can participate with us.
Yeah. I mean, that way, because they all have local chapters as well, and ours is pretty sparse just in terms of, in population, it's growing, the number of people that are in like our local area. But right now they lump us all in with the Seattle folks, and it's just like a completely different personality, different kind of person. And then they do a lot of their events that are like, oh, we're doing this thing like in downtown Seattle. Yeah. It's like, well, we're not going to that because it's like a flight.
It's just a day, and it's definitely hard for us to plan around, honestly. Not that we couldn't, we could.
Yeah.
No excuses here, but we've chosen not to, I guess. We tried to a little bit, but yeah, that's what we're starting our own group.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was good. And there was a lot of talk, obviously, around recessionary stuff for coming into the year.
What's the bull versus bear argument on that you agreed with? Like, which side of the argument? Bear or bull?
Well, I agree with the bear. But to be fair, they had Aaron Amusagechi, I think it's his last name. He's a very prominent investor down in Austin, who's super sharp with economics. Yeah. And they had him and this other guy who has been on like various mainstream news sources talking about the economy against the two bull guys. The people who thought the recession weren't going to happen were more casual investors. So it just like wasn't even fair.
Yeah, what's his name? I know his name. The other guy, the other economist guy. Oh, dang it, I know who you're talking.
John Huber.
Yes, is it John or is it Frederick?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Fred Huber. Yeah, Joe was on the other side.
Yeah, I listened to him on maybe Capital Hacking last week, and I was like, damn. He's sharp. He's go listen to that. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's super sharp. So it was hard not to agree with the Bears on it, but just like looking at a lot of things though, it was interesting because a lot of people right now when they're looking at recession stuff, you're hearing it all around social media. People saying like, "Oh, you need to start stockpiling cash for opportunities," and getting ready to like pounce and all that sort of stuff. But so many of like the Instagram gurus and social media gurus, they fail to talk about where the opportunities are going to come from.
I know.
Right? And they act like if you just have money, they're going to fall on your plate, which obviously isn't true.
Exactly.
So one of the big things tons of people talked about was how they're starting to scale their marketing and, like getting their lead gen and all that sort of stuff going and focusing more on like the lead indicators and like the lead actions to get the opportunities as stuff turns over. And I thought that was a really big message. Actually, I made an Instagram reel about it the other day because that is the difference between the people that make millions of dollars and those that hope that they make millions of dollars. Is they're like, okay, cool, we're going to stockpile that cash. We're going to spend that money right now before there's investment opportunities to create those opportunities in the future. And then we're going to, be able to capitalize on them. Whereas like a lot of casual people will be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go sit on my $100,000 that I've been saving up my entire life and just wait for my investment opportunity with this recession.
Like it's going to knock on your door, which it never does.
And even if it does, cool, you'll get one opportunity. You're not going to be the guy that, we all look at right now who started buying properties back in 2010 and is like super rich. That dude was doing
the opposite.
Was creating the opportunities and finding the different leads back then. And the same thing's going to happen now.
Which has been really challenging, honestly, even now to hold on to dollars because there are like opportunities where I'm like, and I'm a deal guy. I like to do deals. And so it's like really hard to do that. Was there a specific asset class that you think, or is it just like, hey, whatever your asset class is, be ready for it?
Yeah. So, a lot of people obviously are looking at multifamily stuff, especially right now. So I didn't realize people had been doing this, but I went to there was like a multifamily specialty talk. And what a lot of them are targeting is there were people that were getting these multifamily commercial loans over the past couple of years with 3-year balloons that were interest only, right? And as the guys that were on stage put it, the guys that were on stage across them, they had between the 4 guys over $1 billion in assets, and it was like 15,000 or 16,000 units, something like crazy, and that they all been in the game for a long time. And they're like, yeah, there was just sucker loans that they were giving out to these new syndicators that didn't know what the hell they were doing. And what they're doing right now is a lot of them, they are trying to figure out where these loans, how to identify these loans and start marketing to those people 4 to 6 months before their loans come due. Because what's going to happen is every single one of those people are going to have these balloon payments where they're going to be forced to sell or refinance. And if they refinance, all commercial lenders are looking at, they're looking at the dollar service cost ratio, right? The DSCR.
Debt service.
Basically how, the debt service. Yeah, the debt service cost ratio. So how much more the rent is versus the debt. They're going to be the refinancing going to have to sell.
And what is a typical rate? 1.25 right now, DSCR?
Yeah, 1.25 to 1.35, just depending.
And so if you go below 1, what does that indicate? That you would be losing money every month?
Well, basically, you're not going to be able to refinance.
For sure.
Like they're gonna, the lender's going to force you to bring capital, which none of these people have. Yeah. So they're going to be forced to liquidate. And as the guys on stage, but like it's going to be terrible because what'll probably happen with the kind of people that were dumb enough to get themselves in a situation is all of their LPs, all of their limited partners who invested with them are going to get wrecked. Yep. These guys are going to go and save their own
guarantors that they got to sign with the high net worth. They're gonna, that's their debt they're supposed to be liable for that you are signing for. Yeah, that's something I've said in the past was that there are these, we call them the syndicators with quotations around them. I think they, instead of working hard, I think they're just going to walk away. And I think their LPs are going to get wrecked. I think that their GPs that are signing on the loan are going to get wrecked, and they're not going to know how to fight for it, and they're not going to probably try that hard. If they run into a situation, they call one bank and they're like, "Oops, sorry." They're going to try to do a capital call. Their investors are going to either have to come up to the table with a pile of capital, or they're going to be like, "We can't do that." You know, your uncle and your mom and your grandfather, they gave you their retirement already. Sorry.
Yeah, and if they get foreclosed on, I mean, it has to come from somewhere, right? So there was a lot of talk around that, which is pretty interesting, and that's kind of the strategies everyone is focusing on, the lead gen, almost more so than getting the capital, especially because with a lot of these guys, they recognize if they get a strong opportunity, they're going to be able to raise the money, right? Especially as people are going to be hungry out there. So that was a big talk. And then another thing too on that same line was how people are keeping their cash active while they are waiting for these opportunities. So there was a ton of talk about people buying these 3-month like rotating treasury bonds, and the different ways they're doing that. So I don't know if you've heard about that before, but Alex Ramosi actually did a podcast a couple weeks ago talking about this. And basically what you can do is you actually, I don't know how I feel about this part, but what a lot of people will do is you can set it up and you register and you basically give the U.S. government like access to your account, right? So you have like a account that has say a couple $100,000, whatever in it. That's your large investment account. Yep. And what they'll do is every 3 months they will basically pull the cash. You can request it back at any time, and it'll basically be like prorated interest. But it's like a rotating quarterly draw. So like they'll say they'll pull out $100,000. And then after 3 months, they will redeposit it with, your 5% annual interest on it, which would be like, $1,500 or whatever at that point. And then they will pull the $100,000 again. And they basically are just always doing that. So it's like a high interest, almost like savings account, but you can call it back within like a 2-week notice.
Oh, okay.
And so people were really getting into the different ways that they're structuring that.
That's not bad because you can get your money in 2 weeks is pretty liquid.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of these guys, they are sitting on $20, $30, $40 million for acquisitions that they've raised in their funds that they pay a 6%, 7% preferred return to their investors on, but they're able to get like a 5.25% from the U.S. government. Right. So basically it makes their holding costs now be like 1% to 2% on, $40 million instead of 7% or 6% or whatever it is. So, it was just interesting hearing a lot of people are getting to that. And something I'll say on that for people, if you're like, well, I don't have that much cash I'm sitting on. It is, I think the minimum on it was shockingly low. It was like $50,000 for you to be able to do it. So even if you have a small amount of savings that you're looking, that you're worried about losing to inflation, it is an option. Or even if you don't want to go that route, just the money market accounts too, which I know we have a couple of, but those are paying just slightly below what the bonds are paying, and they're also just as liquid, if not more liquid. So, so it was really good. Lots to talk about that, and then as is common with these sort of events, lots of people talking about family stuff, and just like hearing how some of these people live life with their families is pretty crazy. Very few people's kids go to like normal school. Yeah,
the big one's the Acton, ACTON Academy is a big one.
Yep. A lot of them, do this like Acton Academy, which is kind of more like a learning by doing sort of academy, it sounds like.
You know, the one thing my
I
wife
don't
and
know
I have
too many
struggled
details
with
on
that is like, how do they, and I don't know because I haven't done the research, is like, how do they handle organized sports? Because a lot of them join these schools so that they can travel or be somewhere part-time for the year, or just they're not in regular school because they don't believe in the, school system.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to play club sports, right? Like it's not, you can't be through the school.
Right, of course. Yeah. I just didn't know with some of them, if they're traveling, one of the reasons why they like these schools is because they're actually homeschooling, but they're part of an academy. And then with the homeschool, they can travel. So maybe those folks that are traveling 2 to 3 months out of the year in different locations, or 6 months out of the year, maybe they aren't, or maybe their kids aren't playing organized sports.
Yeah, probably. That's what I would guess. Yeah, so I'm doing that, or they're doing homeschooling, or they're doing these other sort of things, which is always interesting to me because like the general consensus is, I mean, all these guys are entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
The older people, I would say, are still pretty into like higher education, but those people that are like, I would say like 35 and younger are like, nah. Like if my kid wants to go, that's fine, but I'm not going to encourage higher education unless they're just like super keen on it.
Right. And then you can go, I mean, think about it in my case. So I spent time in the military. So I went and got my bachelor's. I think I started at age 24. You could, if you were not going to go in the military, you could spend 6 years just cutting your teeth on entrepreneurship, fail multiple times, and then go get a degree. And guess what? You'll still end up somewhere. I'm at least not in the gutter. Because I waited 6 years, you know what I mean? You could wait 10 years. Nobody's saying you can't, you don't, if everything else fails, go back to the traditional model if you really feel like you need to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of these people with their kids, their thought is like, they're hoping that they can raise them in a way that they don't feel like higher education is the only answer for them.
Because it's not. It's actually probably the worst answer.
Yeah, I mean, these days, honestly. But yeah, it was a super good event, though. I recommend if anybody's looking at this sort of organization or similar sort of organizations that you give it a serious look because, I mean, it is extremely valuable.
Well, I think the great thing, and I want to ask you some more questions on your time there, is just, we touched on it earlier, is all the variety of things that are in your life that you can accelerate or get better at by surrounding yourself with people. One of the things is adventure. And that's what really attracts me. I'm actually an adventurous person, although I haven't done very many lately. But one of the reasons why Tahoe, right? Because skiing. So I don't think they did hella skiing this time, did they?
No, they didn't offer it, but they did cat skiing, and then they did cat skiing, and they had like a snowshoeing thing, which I guess was pretty cool. What they did though is they like snowshoed them out like up onto this peak, and they like snowshoed along this pretty sick ridge line, which looked cool. But the gotcha event was there was a backcountry skiing thing that was booked that you could do through GoBundance, and everyone, their thought was like, oh yeah, it's like backcountry skiing. We'll go and we'll like shuttle cars or we'll do helicopter. No, they're like, they got up to an area and the guy's like, cool, we're walking this way, and all the guys were like, we did not sign up for this.
So they were snowshoeing, or they were doing like randonnée skiing, like they had to like.
No, it was like you're wearing your boots and you're hiking up a boot pack into a backcountry area
to ski though.
Ski, yeah.
At least you maybe got some freshies, but yeah, that sucks. You have to like hike through. That's the one thing that sucks about like randonnée or backcountry is like if you're doing it on foot, it's like 3 or 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours of hiking for like one sick run.
And that's exactly what it was, and guys were not prepared.
But you know what though? You'll never forget that. That's the piece of it, the adventure is like that probably sucked a little bit. Some guys are maybe a little colder than they should have been. Some guys are maybe a little hotter. They didn't have the right gear. And part of it was like, that's part of the adventure in my opinion. And so there's a lot of other trips. And my encouragement for you has been, man, you should start one of those because you're such a travel junkie. You should start or put together a adventure trip for GoBundance. Where you basically what you end up doing is you plan out like some cool, maybe week or 2 weeks somewhere really cool, unique, and then take a group of people that want to sign up and are like into that like trip. I don't know, something wild like whitewater rafting down some crazy ass river in South America.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But there's like once in a lifetime bucket list things that typically are offered and encouraged through GoBundance at some level, right? And you can always find a person willing to do it with you if you can't find that in your local, community, which sometimes is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the guys, they do travel together. They do all sorts of stuff, which is pretty cool. I mean, even for Thanksgiving this past year, I was talking to one guy. He owns a giant Airbnb down in Costa Rica.
That's cool.
And he brought his in. So everyone in the group is put into what's called a pod, which is like a small accountability group.
4 or 5 people.
But 4 to 5 people. And everyone in his pod and their families, they came down to his Airbnb in Costa Rica.
That's so cool.
And they just had like Thanksgiving there together.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
And, did like hiking and all sorts of stuff, which is pretty cool.
Cool, man.
But yeah, either way, super good event though. I recommend people look into it if you're interested, because it gives you a whole different perspective on life as well. Once you meet people that are, worth like $50 million, and you're like, oh, they're actually just like me. They just like did things a certain way,
yes.
Right? Or like I met a guy that started real estate the same time that Dan and I started working together, and he owns 140 properties in Eastern Tennessee, 80 short-term rentals and 60 long-term rentals, and he's developing and building 60 more of them, and he is younger than I am.
Makes you feel like, dang.
Yeah, crazy. And the crazy thing is too with his stuff is he doesn't have like a rich benefactor. He doesn't have, like a real estate background or a family or anything that's carrying him. Yeah. It was literally like he did the same business as you and I did, where he's doing this off-market deals, but he focused on development opportunities. And then when stuff would come down, he would work on raising money and like getting partners on board at that point. But even then, he said on the vast majority of the stuff, he is at least a 25% owner.
That's great.
Yeah. So like, just crazy how quickly people can accomplish it. And it's just
and it's like that level, like step up, like. If you think you're doing really good, go surround yourself with people that are doing better, and you're going to be like, okay, there's the next level. It's not like to make you feel like you're not doing as well as other people. It's like giving you that motivation to see like, oh, okay, and there's maybe a different path. Like we all learn a certain path of how we're going to invest in real estate, or we get kind of in our one niche, and then you step back and you're like, oh wow, there's like this whole other playing field that I'm missing out on because I've been so focused on whatever it is within my one market, thinking that I'm doing the right things. I listened to episode 348 on Bigger Pockets, and on that one they said to do this. It's like, well, there's other options out there too. And you could go bigger. Yeah. There's always somebody doing it bigger than you.
Yeah, and like a lot bigger than you would
like
expect
scale,
as well.
Magnitude's bigger.
Yeah. So either way, though, good stuff. And then business chugged along pretty well. Appreciate you holding down the fort.
Got a couple contracts, I think, last week. Signed new ones.
Signed new ones. And we have, 3 or 4 closings, I think?
Yep. We had 2 last 3. No, yeah, we did get 3. We just didn't get paid on the third one. And then we got 4 more coming up this next week, basically, the next 7 to 10 days. So we got a lot of closing. Yeah, February's been wild as far as just organizing all the closings, just because they're just title companies. We're using 3 or 4 different title companies, and they're all different degrees of just not that great at this. And so that's been kind of fun for us and our partners over there to do some of that. But yeah, business went well. Got one under contract. I think that happened this week, didn't it? Or maybe Monday it did. The one in Spokane, we got that one under contract, which we should be wholesaling here quite shortly. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, this is the good thing about having a business. I was away for a week and I have no idea what happened.
I was here and I don't even remember what happened.
Yeah, no, it's all of our. If you guys listened a couple weeks ago, we had the beginning of January. We signed around a shit ton, and a lot of them started closing here this week.
Yeah, we've been popping them off. Like our sales guy, he's going to do very well for himself as far as commissions go. Within the last 10 weeks, or 6 weeks, and that's just a good, I think, for anybody to see okay, I think within that, I think in the last 6 weeks we'll have done I don't know, I'm just gonna say in his just his markets 8 or 10 closings, which is a pretty good amount of commission for him. And it's okay, now how do you repeat that every month? And that's by just staying on your leads, hitting all your follow-up. Obviously, we're continuing to market to bring in new leads to that person. But then it's just keeping your gas on the pedal. Do not let up and be whew, I made some cash. I'm going to go party this weekend, do whatever, pay some bills, and I'm good for a while. I can ride this out for a month. That's the worst attitude you can have, right? The attitude is right on, I'm going to try to beat it next month. Next month, I'm going to close 10 deals. I'm going to close 12 deals because the leads are there. You and I know if you keep bringing leads, and we know if you keep following up with your old leads, there's a conversion rate. And if you can just do that and stay consistent, man, you can have a great year.
Yeah. And that's something that we work a lot with people in our group coaching program, the Instant Investor program, with a lot, is like, especially when you're a one-man show, that you get into a zone where you are in acquisitions mode, you get a bunch of stuff signed around, and then you turn into transaction coordinator mode, and you're trying to get all these things closed. So they let up on the marketing side. And we struggle with this as well when we first started. You get into this phase where you're like making money and then you're broke, and you're making money and then you're broke, and you have no consistency, and it gets really, really stressful. And, you know, you're really, when you're like that, you are one or two deals going sideways away from being in big trouble.
Right.
And it's so important that you maintain that consistent marketing and sales process. And if you're at a phase where you're doing what I just said, where you're like kind of going from acquisition to transaction, going back and forth, that's when it's time to start bringing on some virtuals. Bringing on someone to go and help with like your cold follow up or your different kind of like lead follow-up and scheduling and those sort of things, because otherwise you will burn out in this business. And you will always just have this turbulent, uncomfortable
Well, and
feeling.
I think some people too, they let off the gas pedal on the marketing because they're like, okay, I got this deal, I'm going to flip it, or I'm burning it, or whatever they do. They get their single focus on that, or they think like, when I flip this, I'm going to use those profits for my marketing. It's like, yes, you will use some of those profits for your marketing, but in the meantime, you should keep investing in your marketing so that you do have that steady flow, so that you're not doing what you're saying is pinging to the top, pinging to the bottom, pinging to the top, pinging to the bottom, and getting super stressed out and then burned out. You're much better off of like building your systems and maybe hiring somebody to help you do certain things so that you can go and burr a property or flip a property while you're continuously marketing, continuously bringing in leads, and continuously closing new contracts, so that you always have this steady feed. You're trying to take the peaks and valleys out of your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is why I like direct mail too as our core. That's what we've used as our core marketing source for so long. But with direct mail, you can realistically set your marketing cycle for the next month like one time, and make it drip out over the course of the month, as opposed to a lot of people, they chase things like cold calling or texting and that sort of stuff because it's quote unquote cheaper, even though if you look at cost per deal, it's really the same. But that takes so much more focus, right? And that has to be something that's actively happening all the time. Even if you have a VA that's doing it, or you have a virtual that's cold calling, or you have a cold calling company, right? That still has to be actively going on. And if you have the cold calling company as well, what you'll find is you have a bunch more work than you might potentially want, because the leads that are, especially if it's like a kind of a shitty company, which most of them are, the leads that they submit are people that did not hang up on them and tell them to go F themselves. Right. And they'll submit it to you as a lead. So now you're, constantly trying to play catch up with it. But with direct mail, it's very easy to pre-screen them, because if they called in, they rose their hand, they chose to have a conversation with you, and then basically if it wasn't a, go kill yourself, take me off the list, or I want $1 million for my house that's obviously worth $150,000, then that there's an opportunity there that you can focus on instead of trying to churn through a bunch of data that's probably pointless.
For sure.
So that's all been going good. And then we have several new markets with new partners that we're starting up with here very shortly, which I'm super excited about. We're starting some stuff up down in Florida. We're starting some stuff in some other places in Washington. We have a few other people that we're probably starting up here in the next couple of weeks. One out in Wisconsin.
Speaks to that, getting out in front and marketing for the opportunities that will present themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was a big thing with different people that were interested in partnering with us and being part of our partnership program, was folks that took that to heart, where they're realizing, I have money, I don't have a lead funnel, I can do that, and we can offer an easy button for that.
Totally.
And lo and behold, we have a bunch of people that are going to be sitting in a prime position here over the next couple of months. So lots of good things going on. And then our new internal systems manager has been crushing it.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I'm really excited. Yeah, because what we're going to be having here pretty soon as well for our different partners is we're actually going to have a Collecting Keys mobile app.
Ooh, an app.
So that,
Yes.
so people will be able to, review everything with our team, between our team and them, and review their marketing metrics and all this sort of stuff. So it'll be really seamless system, hopefully. It'll at least make us look super professional.
Yeah. Can we get you remember on the old Nokia phones where you could get Snake? Could we get that added to our app so that there's just there's an incentive for everybody to be inside of our app all the time? We'll put some like advertisement banners there and make it really scammy as well.
Run apps in our own in our own business app.
Right. No, I'm actually really excited for that app because that has been it's just a lot of work on our end, trying to maintain communication with all of our partners across the country. And so I think that's going to just help for everybody involved in the Collecting Keys ecosystem at whatever tier they're in to be like actually have a one-stop shop where they're going to like, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's like you open up an app and now all of a sudden you have deals in front of you, like legit deals that are yours specifically. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff. So if you have any interest in any of those sort of things that we offer, if you go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/store, and you can see our 7-figure investor mastermind program and some basic information about our partnership program as well. So you can check that out because we're looking to expand that pretty rapidly. But yeah, besides that, we got some deals closing. We're actually selling some stuff sub 2, which will be interesting. So we are also looking for some, I guess we're planning a 1031 into some triple net commercial stuff. So if you guys have anything like that you want to sell, you should hit me up on Instagram.
Seriously,
because
we're looking hard.
We're looking very, very hard for some opportunities. But outside of that, I feel good, man. I feel like we have a lot of stuff going on, and this is, I would say for everyone, if you had a 2022 kind of like, I'm not really sure what's happening year, 2023 seems to me, just based off of what everyone's saying, it's going to be the year that there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So if you've been sitting on the sidelines kind of waiting, it's time to start putting your foot down because stuff's going to
get ready to pounce.
Quick. Yep, exactly. So cool. Anything else from you for last week? Or is that kind of all we got?
No, that was it, man. Just systematizing while you're gone, finishing up tax stuff, and getting ready to rock and roll.
There we go. You don't have Dan's freaking TikToker of the week or whatever the fuck you normally have.
Dan's
you always have like some... You should have like some dumb.
No, I didn't have time, man. I didn't have time to be bullshitting around. I was busy. Yeah, no, I don't. I was just trying to wait for my BDE shirt to show up. It still hasn't. Now I'm like bored with the term BDE. I need to come up with a new term for it. I need a new
BDE.
shirt.
I know. Well, we've been rebranding our marketing company. So that's next on the list is the Collecting Keys official merch store, where you can get a Collecting Keys shirt like Dan's wearing on this video, or you can get his BDE Big Dan Energy shirt. Yes. And then as we come up with more stupid sayings that will only be funny to the 8 people that come to the Collecting Keys like conference or whatever.
Know, right? They're all going to be rocking BDE shirts, dude, with my face on them. Nice. Yeah. No, I'm excited. So I love companies that have merch, right? So the big one that I've followed and I have promised myself I'll never miss another launch is things from the Boring Company, Elon Musk's, because when the flamethrower came out, I was like, oh, I should totally buy that, and I just didn't. It was only like $250 or something like that, $500.
It was $600,
so
and
cheap.
I didn't have $600 back then.
I did, and I just was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I didn't think about it,
Must be
and
nice.
I missed a couple things. But so my first time I was able to pop in and get something before it sold out was the burnt hair perfume. So
you got the worst thing. Like that's literally the worst.
I know, but I'm so excited. I keep getting email updates like it's still coming, and so I'm super excited for it. Like I'm pumped.
I mean, if you want a shitty product like that, why don't you go get?
It's not shitty. It's high quality.
What's the lady that is like the big like anti-vax lady she's on Iron Man.
She's on Iron Man.
What? Yeah, what the fuck is her name? I can't remember. But she has the candle, and the candle's called like this candle smells like my vagina.
Oh, Gwyneth Paltrow.
What's her name?
Gwyneth Paltrow, yeah, they're sold out.
Yeah, why don't you get some of those?
They're sold out.
They're sold out.
Yeah,
of course they are.
I looked it up when I saw that. I was like, is this real? Like, when you're like, is this real? Because I got to repeat this. And I showed it to my wife, and she's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, but it's sold out.
I mean, just brilliant marketing.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
It's definitely sold out.
Yeah.
So people enjoyed it.
Yeah, if you want to buy more crappy products, that's what you should do next. But anyway, so all right, guys. So that is the rundown of this past week for us. So GoBundance event was big. If you guys have any questions about that too, if anyone's kind of on the fence about it, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Mike_invest. I've had quite a few people recently that were just sort of curious in the other groups that I'm involved in, and that's a big one that I'm happy to chat with people about. So go ahead and shoot me a message on Instagram about that. Aside from that, guys, if you want to get your free 5-step guide, start generating off-market leads so you can start building that pipeline to pounce on all the upcoming opportunities in 2023, go to collectingkeyspodcast.com/free. You can get yourself a free 5-step guide there. And besides that, you guys, we have an insane amount of stuff coming up over this next couple of months. So make sure you guys subscribe to the show. Go ahead and share it with anybody who might find it interesting. And we have like some big guests coming. We have all sorts of things coming up over the next year.
Big drops.
So, yep. Big collecting keys content coming your way. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.